Hello, my name is Balin Theory, and I'm having some technical difficulties with my video, so I have my audio, so here we go. So I did a multimodal project on the effects of underage drinking. It was my, complex problem throughout the entire semester, and so I made it into a multimodal project. So, a brief introduction. So, the goal of this project is to spread public awareness about the impact that underage drinking can have on the development, decision making, and behavior of underage drinkers. There are some consequences that could arise from underage drinking that we'll learn about in this multimodal project as well, from a legal standpoint, psychological, biological, etc. And how can the community help combat underage drinking? So, in other words, what can you or me do to help prevent underage drinking? All of these points are going to be addressed via this presentation. So, what is underage drinking? I think that's a good place to start. So, underage drinking, according to the NIAA, is defined as the partaking of alcohol either by binge drinking or addiction of any person under the age of 21. And underage drinking typically involves those who are in high school or college that are under 21. Since most of the time, those who are in school are going to be drinking more, especially in college. But it does happen in high school too, as we will see in this presentation. So here's a little graph that I found from the same exact source. It's the percentage of past month of alcohol, tobacco, or marijuana use, and it has to do with more adolescents use alcohol than tobacco or marijuana. So as you can see here, the blue represents on the graph here, alcohol, and so you'd see even out of all of these groups, it seems that alcohol is a very popular choice among younger people. And this is according to 2019. So this is a very recent article. So this is percent past month use of alcohol or tobacco or marijuana. And it seems here that ages 16 to 17 have the most use of alcohol at a 19.3 average. Here's some other stats. So nearly one-third of all drunk driving deaths happen to people ages 16 to 20. That makes up a big majority of drunk driving deaths. There are 10.8 million underage drinkers in the United States. If you think about that, that means across the entire country, there are 10.8 million people under the age of 21 who are partaking in binge drinking or they have an addiction to alcohol at the moment. And that's very scary to think of, especially across colleges and things like that and high schools. It becomes a little daunting the more that we look at into this. 1 in 16 will binge drink in their life. So that's just kind of an estimate there. I think that maybe this is an older source, but I think that it definitely still stands true. I think that I think nowadays, I think I've read more that says 1 in 5, but I thought this was a very interesting graph to look at, or interesting little poster to look at. And then only 1 in 100 parents believe his or her teen binge drinks. So that's a huge problem, is that we have a discrepancy between parents who believe that their children are drinking, and we have a discrepancy between, whether or not those kids drink. There could be more that those parents just don't even realize that they are drinking. So that's a big discrepancy in this public health crisis. What happens to people who drink underage? What type of impact does it have on younger people? So there are many different possible outcomes for those who choose to drink underage, according to SAMHSA. So underage drinkers are more likely to participate in drugs. They're more likely to skip school and get bad grades. They're more likely to suffer death at the hands of driving under the influence. They're more likely to engage in sexual activity, increasing the odds of getting someone pregnant and contracting an STD. And they're, especially since they are underage and do not have formed that judgment part of the brain, which usually forms around after 21, are keen to make extremely poor decisions, which can almost like add to all of the ones that I just had listed there. So here is a graph, or here's a little, not a graph, excuse me. Here is a poster that was made in 2018 that kind of like briefly sums up the parts of the brain that is impacted when someone drinks underage. So as we can see, if we go from the top left, it alters the flow of blood, it impairs memory, it slows electrical activity, which is like neurons getting to certain parts of the body, disrupts communication between the neurons, starts lifelong habits. This is a big one because addiction usually is started at a young age. Long-term functioning for the heart is decreased. It changes perceptual skills, and it impairs problem solving a lot of the time. So most of these things are from alcohol addiction or binge drinking, even if you are 21, but it has a more significant impact on someone who is under the age of 21. 90% of addictions have roots in teen years. That's a big one, because as we just saw above, is that it can create lifelong habits. And typically, if someone is indulging in binge drinking, it might make them form an addiction, not just of alcohol, but maybe drugs or some kind of sexual addiction. It can definitely spiral and cause more of an issue than solve anything. Here's a big one too. This is from the Washington Underage Drinking Council that is formed out there from the government out there. In 2016, so there is a survey conducted of underage alcohol use. The percentage of students who reported having a drink in the last month, it's, as you can see, it increases when it gets to grade 12. But you can see that 2% of all those are in grade 6. You have to think about that. That's probably maybe at age of 12, 13. Not even 12, 13. Maybe like, I don't even know. Probably less than that. But it's just very scary to think about that. Who reported binge drinking, we can see it increase here. But typically they're going to be more on the grade 12 side because obviously, they have a lot more access to alcohol via parents. There's a lot more freedom when you get into that age group as opposed to all the other ones. You can see here who think it is easy to get alcohol. You can see here grade 10 and grade 12 have very similar numbers, but not really. So, of the 10th grade students who drank it the past 30 days, how did they get their alcohol? So, and we see the 10th grade ones here. Bought it from a store, so that's a scary number right there. 6% bought it from the store underage. That's very scary. 9 stole it from a store, from an older sibling, from friends at a party, which can account for maybe all of these right here because it's 48%. So you could get these from any type of way, like home, gave money to someone, bought it from a store, stole it. Older sibling, those could all be combined into like giving it from friends at a party. Those are all possibilities for that underage drinker to get that alcohol. So those are very scary stats that we are looking at right now. What can we do to combat underage drinking? Well, there's not really a lot we can do because we can't enforce it, and there's a lot of times that we can't really do anything to stop them from drinking unless we crash a party or do something of that sort. So we can combat it in these ways. We make sure everyone in the community is aware that underage drinking is an issue. It is a good first step to preventing underage drinking. If people are aware of it, and people are aware that maybe my kids might be drinking underage, maybe I can intervene with them and try to stop the problem before it gets worse, or possibly try to educate them on what the effects of it are. And that leads me to the next one. It's everyone's job to inform teenagers that underage drinking can cause biological and psychological issues. So all the things that I went through in this presentation can definitely be addressed to a teenager who, is either peer pressured to drink or has friends that drink, it might be a good way to show them that this is a dangerous thing to do at a younger age, and it's not healthy for your brain or any part of your body. It makes it to where there are limits on what you can do, and it alters your behavior in a way that you can't really control. And that sometimes can maybe keep a student or keep a kid away from alcohol. But it really just depends on how it's addressed to the kid, or to the teenager. Because most of the time teenagers want to rebel, and they want to do things that, are, cool. And underage drinking, or drinking alcohol in general, just seems like a cool thing for them to do, because it's just so out of, the realm of possibility that, it just makes it more of a thrill to do it. So I think that educating them and putting public service forums in school and other places can give students more of an awareness. I think if schools participated in trying to make sure that students had a way to talk to someone if they felt like they needed help with something, it would maybe deter students from doing it more. Excuse me. And maybe possibly stop them from doing it again. And so the conclusion here: underage drinking is a public health crisis that can cause addiction and other types of physical impairment and mental impairment. And the main way to combat underage drinking is to become educated enough about the subject to inform younger people, the impacts that it has on their bodies and their mind. And if you know someone that is underage and has a drinking problem, please contact the Addiction Center phone number. Please. I know this is a presentation for awareness, but if you know someone that might have an underage drinking problem or suspect it, please contact this number. It's not a laughing matter. This is something that's serious, and it's usually swept under the rug because it's more socially acceptable. Just please call someone. And I have my works cited here, and I appreciate you for listening to this, and thank you very much. Have a good night.